Heston Blumenthal from three-star restaurant The Fat Duck hardly needs an introduction. This creative mastermind has made his mark in food history through multisensory cooking and extraordinary food pairings. Today, he explains how your microbiome and food affect your mood.
Hi, Heston.
Bernard, how are you?
Fine. Good afternoon. Thank you for joining.
Oh, it's great. It's great to be here. One of my ambitions is to try and talk less.
Sorry for that.
I have to squeeze a lot into a short period of time.
Yeah, but this is about microbiome, and I know how passionate you are about microbiome. It's for several years that you're already talking about microbiome. Why are you so intrigued by microbiome?
I think basically I came across this through seeing myself as a walking experiment, maybe not with so much awareness as I have now. So this is 25 years of my professional career, but as I've learned more and more through the work that I've done, I've reflected, this is the power of memory, I've reflected on the things that maybe I interacted with as I grew up and the way I responded to them. So I think potentially this is an easy thing to say and a difficult thing to do. The biggest freedom a human being has is the choice to choose how they emotionally react to any given situation. Now, that's very easy to say, incredibly difficult to do. And probably I was asking questions of myself about how and why I took the approach to cooking that I took. So I'm here now in Provence. I'm 15 minutes away from a restaurant that inspired me to cook. So I'll just take you back a little bit to, well, maybe more than a little bit, Bernard, before you were born. I was born in the mid-60s. And certainly in Britain in those days, food was not something synonymous with the UK. So a British chef was a kind of paradox, really. Mm-hmm. And I remember Jacques Chirac at a G7 summit meeting once said Britain has the worst food in Europe, second only to Finland. Now, any Finnish people, I apologise if you don't, because we were second. I thought it was an outrageous comment. But go back to when I grew up in London, we could only buy one type of pasta. It was a spaghetti in a blue packet. Olive oil you had to buy from the chemist because that was designed for British people. You only used olive oil to pour into your ears when they were blocked. You didn't cook with it. So I didn't grow up with Michelin-star restaurants, oysters, caviar. I didn't even know what those things were. So we went to Cornwall every year for a holiday, and one year I went to this restaurant, this 3 Michelin-star restaurant with my family. And I had an experience I'll never forget. I remember the noise of the feet of the waiting staff crunching on the gravel, the smell of lavender, the chink of the glasses, the noise of the crickets. It was like I fell down a multi-sensory rabbit hole into my own wonderland. But I wasn't quite aware of it at the time. Had I have known what a lobster looked like or an oyster looked like, then maybe it wouldn't have had the impact it had on me. So when Jacques Chirac said that, it's quite funny actually. It was 2 weeks before England, London and Paris were fighting it out for the Olympics. And after that comment, the 2 Finnish representatives withdrew their votes from Paris and gave them to London.
Okay.
And I spoke to Seb Coe about it, and I said, "This is true that we got our Olympics because of our cooking." After Jacques Chirac insulted Finland and England, the Finnish judges said, "Right, stuff you. We're giving our votes to the UK." But I grew up in a country that didn't have that food culture, that love, that connectivity with food. So one of the things for me that makes human beings unique creatures is our ability to imagine things that don't exist. You can use the word consciousness, but that has many different connotations to it. But the connection between our imagination and our memory is so powerful. Without imagination, we would not create shared beliefs. So what are shared beliefs? Language, science, cultures, nations and states, money, religion, social media, football teams, music. They're all mechanisms to connect and communicate. And possibly for me, the biggest shared belief of all is time. That is the one that unites us the most. And our relationship with time is incredibly powerful. And then I was going to just call up, there's a reason why I'm saying all this. There's a Dalai Lama quote. So the Dalai Lama, when asked what surprised him most about humanity, he said man, because he sacrifices his health in order to make money. Then he sacrifices money to recuperate his health. Then he's so anxious about the future, he does not enjoy the present. The result being, he doesn't live in the present or the future. He lives as if he's never going to die, and then he dies having never lived. So my point is that I believe it is human beings' relationship with food that evolved our endocrine, our emotional system, and the brain, the senses. So our eyes, our ears, our sense of touch and taste and sound and smell are protective mechanisms for the gut. As we just heard, our the 120 trillion microbes that live in our gut. And we heard before somebody talking about mucus and mucosa. And the viscosity and the pH of these things make a massive difference. Everything to me is about frequency. So all those trillions of little creatures that live in our gut and that interact with each other, we're like our own self-contained walking universe within a walking universe. So we talk about, and this is, you talk about eat the gap. It's a fantastic, it is a fantastic phrase because it's the bits that we can't see between the bits that we can see that make the bits we can see. Dark matter, the pauses between musical notes. It's the invisible that makes the visible. So not only is every human being wonderfully unique, but every human being is wonderfully unique at any given second of their life. So I believe that you could eat a food, you could eat I'm just trying to think of you could eat a McDonald's, for example, one day. And you could eat it with stress, you could eat it with guilt, you could eat it with, because you want to anesthetize, or you want to forget, or you want to be with friends, or you want to experiment. And I think there's a thing called the hero's journey, which is a model of storytelling created by somebody called Joseph Campbell. And he had his own company within George Lucas films. So all Star Wars are written with the hero's journey. Or Pixar films, the Bible, Homer, the Quran, they're the hero's journey. And the reason that we resonate with these stories is because every human being is on their own hero's journey. So there are moments we breathe, then we have to drink, then we eat and sleep. Once you've done those 4 things, you can get on with the rest of life. So thank God human beings have had shared beliefs to create systems, linear systems of measurements, mathematics, microbiome measurement systems, DNA measurement systems, facial recognition systems, blood glucose, pH measuring systems. All of these things How incredible inventions of human beings. What I would love to see is our relationship. How do we feel when we read that data? How does our gut feel when we eat something? We talk about a world shortage of food coming along, and it's very relevant to COVID, respiratory problems. It's to do with inflammation. Everything on this planet expands and contracts. When it becomes inflamed, it doesn't expand, doesn't contract, and then it dies. Depending on how we define death, it dies. So, under our problems in life, life is beautiful. And I think that, yes, we should continue to research, do as much as we can for agriculture, as much as we can for looking at foods that are going to be beneficial for our gut health, beneficial for our blood glucose, pH levels of our blood, beneficial for blood pressure and the operation of our vital organs. But let's not forget our emotion, because our endocrine system is the very thing that drives us. There is nothing after emotion. There is nothing at all after emotion. So our relationship with food is what makes us and has made us human beings. That evolutionary relationship is so valuable, and every human being can be aware of that. So when I'm eating something, it's the difference between eating to feel full or eating to feel fulfilled. So yes, we should find ways of not starving, milking, killing the planet. But if we can find more mouthfuls with gratitude and fulfillment, my God, that would make a massive difference to the planet.
Yeah,
go on.
Absolutely. Heston, you also had a conversation with Richard on the microbiome, because for both of you, the self-experimentation is really crucial of what you are. So, what insights did you share between each other?
Well, I think that one of my comments to something that Heston is talking about is, what do you mean when we say the word me, or what do I mean when I say I? Like he was saying, that there's so many other dimensions to this. It's like peeling an onion and seeing that we've got all these microbes that are in us. Is that what we're referring to? Is it the environment that we're around? Is that what we're referring to? Is it the culture? Is it the language? Like all these different elements. What I think is especially interesting and wonderful about the time that we live in today is that science is providing a lot of new tools to be able to investigate this at a level that we couldn't do before. And being able to just see those, like Heston says, between the gaps, being able to see that with new kinds of technology that's, at consumer pricing, I think is one of the things that makes, this a wonderful time to be alive.
I agree, but I think we must not we must not become slaves to the incredible systems of measurement. Imagine if you drank water and then you vomit an iPhone on the floor. What would you say? People would say that's a miracle. Human beings have invented, so we are communicating through vibratory systems. There's no wires, there are no cables, they're vibrations, they're frequencies. But human beings have done that. Human beings have traveled to space. Human beings have found ways to measure the small stuff. We will never, ever measure everything there is to measure, because we should view ourselves as such incredibly imaginative beings that have this potential to share and communicate, to create these systems of measurement. My point is, let's just check in with ourselves to make sure that we don't lose the being. We don't become human doings. We also put the beings, and emotion and feelings and awareness of those emotions and feelings. For me, once you're dead, you're dead. Well, yes and no. But I think I hated my telephone. I have ADHD, quite extreme. I found my telephone, I didn't like it. I didn't like feeling I have to send something back. I'm no good with IT. It's not one of my superhero strengths. I threw one in the lake. I've bitten the corner off one. I threw one on the floor. Then I realised, Heston, hang on a second. Maybe, just maybe, it's my relationship with the telephone I need to look at. It's like religion. I'm not religious. I believe in the belief of religion, but I'm not religious. Religion, telephone, social media, money, time, it's all potential. And these are incredible things that human beings have created. So if we could form a group to look at the way that we interact with these measurements, the stuff you've been doing, I don't know anyone on the planet that has had that self-discipline. It is incredible. And we spoke about this yesterday. I would love finding ways to say, right, at this moment in time, I ate red beans and this showed up in my microbiome test. However, I was miserable. I was stressed. I was angry. I was content. I was relaxed. For me, that is the part that we are missing from the research on microbiome. Hence, my email is brain gut, not gut brain. It's brain gut brain via the vagus nerve, but that's another subject. So I'd love this combination of this linear and non-linear approach to life, being and doing, and that's what's made us human beings special, with imagination and memory.
So what's your comment on that, Richard? Can you relate to that? Well,
I totally agree. I mean, there's no question that for all the great achievements that have happened with science, we know just a tiny fraction of what there is to know about the universe, and all these things that about religion, spirituality, and the unknowns of a zillion things that are out there. Of course, that we don't. None of those things are. It is inscrutable, and we need some other type of language to be able to describe that. I guess one of the hopes that I have is, to the degree that there's been some progress in even understanding things like the gut-brain axis, or some of the many things that have been discovered just recently because of the microbiome. A lot of that has been achieved because of our ability to be able to come up with clever new ways to be able to measure things. And the scientific method of doing experimentation and carefully, tracking the results when you do this versus that, and comparing yourself to other people, that I think is itself a real great human achievement that not all cultures have developed, and it's something that we should be really proud of. And I look forward to the day when we will be able to measure your emotions and measure exactly how your mood changed after you ate this food versus that food, or in this sort of context and that context. I'm very optimistic.
Very interesting, I think.
I'm just going to jump in here very quickly, because obviously we are connected to a gastronomic sort of group of people, and we have linear systems of measurement and non-linear systems of measurement, and both the wonderful and problematic thing that is food. So for me, you cannot have a best restaurant. You can't have a best restaurant in the world. It just doesn't make sense. You can have a best Formula One driver, a best 100-meter sprinter. When the word perfection comes from Greek, which is complete. So if the maximum mark is 10, you're measured on a linear system of 10, fine. The beauty and complication with food is that you don't have to look at a piece of art or listen to a piece of music to live. It can be profound and change your life, but you don't die. If you don't eat food, eventually you die. So if you were to talk about, in art terms, is Picasso or Salvador Dali the best artist? It's subjective, and that is the beauty with food. So when we talk about emotions and when we talk about wellness, when people say, I want you to be the best version of yourself, the only person that knows they can be the best, if they are the best version of themselves, is that person. It's an interior universe relative measurement.
Okay, Heston, we are running out of time, so thank you for your input and your talk. It was very inspiring, and there's a lot of things that we need to think about going forward, I think. Thanks as well to Bernard, and thanks over there as well.